Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and today we have a tale of two board games. Specifically, two trick-taking board games. More specifically, two-player trick-taking board games that also are competitive two-player trick-taking board games. If you want a cooperative two-player trick-taking board game, check out Sail from Allplay. But that's not what this video is about. We have Jekyll and Hyde and The Fox in the Forest. Both of these are relatively well-known. I would argue The Fox in the Forest is more relatively well-known. Jekyll and Hyde is well-known enough, illustrated by Vincent Dutrait. I actually don't know the illustrator of this one. I apologize. It's probably somewhere here. I don't know exactly where. Now I feel bad. Anyways, two-player trick-taking games. Let's go ahead and talk about how these each play, and then I'll give you my thoughts on both. So I'm going to divide this into a bit of a teach, and then thoughts and opinions as to why I like one of these much more than the other, what it was about those games for me, although I don't know if that will hold up true for you. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about Fox in the Forest. Let's talk about how this one operates over here. We have a scoring reference. We have our little points, which I'm going to ignore for the sake of this because we don't need to get into it. I believe you're working your way to 21 points. I'd have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure you're going to 21 points, and that's when somebody wins the trick. It might be 20. I'd have to double check the rules. But that said, you're going to go ahead and shuffle up these cards. You're going to go ahead and deal each player a bunch of cards over here. We're going to give 13, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And that's the cards are going to go in the center over here, and it's going to start by giving us the trump trick over here, the trump suit. Past that, we're going to go ahead and have a hand. I'm going to take a look at my hand, and now the cards are going to be from 1 to 11 in 3 different suits. So over here, we're going to have the keys, the moons, and these shrines, I guess, pagodas, not entirely sure what those are. Now, the odd suits are going to have abilities. You're going to have a scoring reference, which both tells you how to score points, but also gives you the abilities of the 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. And what you're going to do is you're going to play a card playing into whatever suit. So just for the sake of example, let's say I go ahead and play this 4 over here. My opponent takes a look, and they go ahead and say, hey, you know what? Right now, any number that is higher than this in the following suit will win. Any number in the trump suit will automatically win. The only suit I have to be careful of is oranges are inherently going to lose right now. So oranges and anything less than a 4 on this suit will lose. Those are the only things that will cause you to lose over here. So it's fairly straightforward as far as how to win. The tricky part is you need to decide how you're trying to score points in this because of the concept of shooting the moon over here. Over here, what you're going to get is you get 6 points for winning 0 to 3 of the 13 tricks. You get 6 points for winning 7 to 9 of the 13 tricks. Basically, if you win a lot, you get a lot of points, and if you win basically nothing, you get a lot of points. Anything in between is where you start getting into gradients. So, for example, if you win 6, you get 3, 5, 2, 4, and 1. That's how many points you get for winning over here. So every round is going to result in one player getting points for how many tricks they won, possibly more than one player, getting tricks for how many suits they won, how many tricks they won doing the hand, and as well as a few extra points for some of the abilities on these cards. So right now, I take a look at my hand over here. Let's see what I got. I got a lot of stuff in the trump suit, although that can change. I have some reasonably middle ground cards. I think I might be able to reliably lose a bunch of these. Losing is actually interesting in this game because, especially if you go second, you have a lot of control. One of the things that's different than Fox in the Forest is you don't actually have to follow suit, which really changes the entire dynamic over here. So right now, perhaps I go ahead and lose within the followed suit because I do have a lot of the trump suit. That's going to be dangerous over here, although I do have the ability of changing the trump suit with 3s. And so right now, I do have a bunch of 3s. I have 2 of the 3s, which is important. That gives me control to change the trump suit because 1 3 would not be enough. They might have the other. Sure, it might be buried in the deck, but they might have the other 3. 2 3s is helpful because if they change it back, I can still control it. So I think I can reliably try to lose as many as I possibly can right now. So I'll go ahead and play out a 3 over here, and I'll lose. Oh, that's a 3. That would make you change the soup over there. Maybe I won't do that. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and just play a high number. What's the highest? I'm going to play this one over here. When you lead with this, not relevant. Okay, I'm going to play that, and there I go. I've lost that suit. They go ahead and win, which means they now play the next suit. They look at their hand. They're not yet sure how this is going to go, but they start off with, let's start with the lowest suit I possibly can, but the problem is they can break suit. So what if I go into the trump suit? They can win. They go ahead. They'll play this, maybe they try to win, but not a ton. So let's go ahead and start with a 10 over here of this suit, expecting me to follow and possibly lose. I can go ahead and play a 9 to lose that. I can play within the key suit to lose that. In fact, I could do this, but I don't want to yet. I don't want to play the trump suit. I need to be careful with that. I will play the keys and lose again. Now, this is going to go back and forth. I'm not going to do a full back and forth on this, but the basic idea is you're trying to either lose everything, or 0 to 3 tricks won, Or alternatively, win as many as you can, up to 9 tricks. So it's a bit of a push and pull. What are you trying to do? And you really have to lean into whatever you're doing. Meanwhile, you're dealing with abilities on these suits over there. Again, the 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11 all have abilities. They are consistent across the suits, so there is that. And using those abilities to force different play states. You know, when you play the 1, you lead the next suit even if you lost, which means you can't control for a loss all the time. When you play a 3, you change suits. Some things will let you draw cards, some things let you score points. That's the basic idea as far as how you play Fox in the Forest. From there, we move on to Jekyll and Hyde. Jekyll and Hyde is going to be more of a tug-of-war, an asymmetric tug-of-war, and it is asymmetric. There are 2 ways to play. You either simply play an asymmetric game and call it a day, and I love this metal piece, by the way, or alternatively, you play 2 hands back and forth, and, well, 2 full games back and forth, with each player taking each side, and that way you can see who got further effectively. Because you have one player playing as Jekyll and one player playing as Hyde. We start off as fully Jekyll as we possibly can. We're going to go ahead and give out the cards to the players. There's going to be, I believe it's a 1 to 7. I think it's a 1 to 7 of 3 different suits for 21 cards, plus 4 potions. So a total of 25 cards. 10 cards are going to go to each player. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, 10, 10, and the remaining 5 cards are going to go off to the side. From those cards that you have, you're going to go ahead and start by playing across 3 rounds of play. You're going to exchange cards each round. So the first round, you exchange 1 card. Second round, you exchange 2 cards. Third round, you exchange 3 cards. Now over here, we have the cards over here. Again, you have 1 to 7, and there's still an aspect of trying to figure out what you're trying to do. You see, as Jekyll, you want absolute balance. You're trying to keep your sides of your personality in balance. As Hyde, you want imbalance. Whether that's winning or losing, you don't care, but you want imbalance, because 10 tricks will be played. And let's say at the end of those 10 tricks, you have one player won 7, one player won 3. It doesn't matter who won 7 or 3, that's a difference of 4, which means you're going to go ahead and move this marker 1, 2, 3, 4. And you have to move it a total of 10. And at the end of each round, again, perfect balance will leave it staying the same. 5 and 5 will stay where it is. 6 and 4 is going to move 2. And as Hyde, you're trying to get it to move from here all the way to here by the end of the 3rd round. That's the basic way to play. If you're playing with these switching sides, then at the end of a game, you're going to see how far you got as Jekyll, or as Hyde. You can see how far you got as Hyde, players switch sides, and see if the other player can get as far or further, which is the way I recommend playing this, because, well, it depends on the players and the cards and all this stuff, but it's the best way I recommend really seeing that test of skill as opposed to purely an asymmetric game. Plus, it's short, not that long, so it's doable too. Anyways, as far as the game goes, this is one where you are going to go ahead and have to follow suit. And there's a bit of an interesting mechanism here. Let's say as the first player, let's say I'm playing as Hyde right now. So right now, as Hyde, I'm looking at the cards here, and I think that I can control a little bit, but not a ton. I can control winning the 7, the 6. I can control losing these 2 over here. So there's some agency. I think I'm going to try to go ahead and force a losing state. So I'll start off by playing this one over here. I'm going to play this 1 to the table. We're also going to set that the lowest suit is now purple. Once you play a card, it's going to define the hierarchy of suits in terms of how something wins. And you can't break suit, unfortunately, in this game. I forgot to exchange cards, but you exchange card at the beginning of the round. And it's relevant, too, because if you have more than 1 potion, you must exchange a potion. And that's relevant because potions have abilities and give you some agency or control. So right now, in this 2 potion state, it looks like 3 potions off to the side. I would have had to give a potion to the player. I'll give this 3 over here, and we'll go ahead and this player, trying to lose, would have gone ahead and given the 7 to this player, okay, to control for that. Because again, as Hyde, right now I'm trying to lose. I looked at my hand. I figured I'm going for a losing strategy here. This player goes ahead. Jekyll now needs to respond. They have to follow suit if they're able to, and they're going to go ahead, or you could play into a potion, but we won't do that for right now. They'll play this, and they'll get the suit on their side, which means now that they won, they can control for the next suit. So they want to take a look over here. They want balance too, so they'll go ahead and play this red 1 to force the other side to go ahead and lose. We'll go ahead and have Hyde pick up his hand again. Hyde does have a 6 over here. They also have a 3 and a 4. They have 2 potions now. We're going to go ahead and play this over here, which does mean they're winning a suit, which is not great. They're going for imbalance. But now that I won, I can once again force the other side. I'm worried that they have a purple 1. Now keep in mind, having looked at both hands, I know what they have. I'm trying to play as if I don't. Because I'm worried that they have a purple 1, if I play the 2 over here, they can win that. Whereas the 5 and the 6 aren't great either. They can almost certainly win. Maybe I go for a winning strategy. You know what? Let's play the purple 2 and see how that goes for me. Depending if they win or lose, I can continue to react, because right now it doesn't actually matter. They're going to go their hand. They don't actually have a purple 2, so they're going to go ahead and break suit. Now keep in mind, only purples have been played right now. I think only purples have been played. No, red's been played. Red's been played, which means we're going to have the order established now, because green's going to follow last. And to that end, they're going to go ahead and respond by, let's say, playing a, you know what, we'll play anything they play will win this inherently because you're breaking into a higher suit, so they'll go ahead and play a 7, knowing that we're trying to maintain balance. If I'm winning now, I want to lose later, so we're going to keep that there. Because I've won, I'll go ahead and follow it up with a green 2 and see how that gets received, and we'll go ahead and respond on this hand with possibly playing through one of our abilities, just to show you how they operate. I'll go ahead and show you, I'm going to go ahead and play a 3 over here. Now when you play a potion in this game, you're going to basically act one of the abilities depending on what you play that potion against. If you play that potion against a green card, each player will swap 2 cards in the hand, which can be really helpful if you have a few cards that are forcing you into losing or winning, forcing you into whatever you don't want. If you want the flexibility, forcing players to trade cards in the hands is very helpful. When you play it against a red card, you're going to remove all of these tokens on the board and reset the suits as cards are played, which can again get you out of a pinch. And lastly, when you play it against a purple card, the winner of the trick takes a trick from the losing player, which further creates a set of imbalance. I find it can really help. Depending on which player you are, and depending on the game state, it can help both players a lot to play those potions. That's basically the way the game is played. You're playing through these cards over here, you're trying to be mindful of the potions, the abilities they grant you, you're trying to have one player create a sense of imbalance regardless of which way that goes, and one player trying to create a sense of balance no matter what happens in the game. And that is how you play through Jekyll and Hyde. And with that, let's go ahead and talk about these 2 games, what my thoughts are, which one I like more, why it is, and all that. And I'll start with the fact that, well, let's just start by telling you which one I like more. I like Jekyll and Hyde a lot more than Fox and the Forest. I found Jekyll and Hyde to be a very compelling experience, and the Fox and the Forest to be an okay trick-taking game. And the reason for that is because of what each game does and how it operates. And I will say, I think Fox and the Forest is generally better received. This is a well-loved game that, for me, is okay. It hasn't landed as much for me, and it might be one of those things that requires more plays. I've often said that for me, trick-taking is often defined by the ability to see the pattern of what you're doing, the ability to kind of read through the pattern of how you're trying to control the game state. Because trick-taking is an interesting puzzle of just having a hand of cards and kind of before things start, understanding the sequence you'll need to play those cards to be able to get the desired outcome. Knowing the pool of potential cards, not always knowing which ones are in play, both those games have that in common, not all cards are in play, but knowing the pool of potential cards and being able to react to not just what you have, but what you can anticipate your opponent having and how a sequence will lead to the next sequence. If I play this, you'll win this. If you win this, you control the hand. If you control the hand, you're going to play that. It's all about trying to find that pathway forward with a lot of information that is present, but still trying to read through that information and see the desired endpoint and how to achieve it. For me, I have that with Jekyll and Hyde. I don't have that as much with Fox and the Forest, which is again why inherently reviews of these things are inherently so subjective. Because I see the pathway forward less, because the strategy is less obvious to me, less intuitive, I feel less at home in Fox and the Forest, and I also find the overall arc less compelling. See, I played through the Fox and the Forest, and I find a very typical thing that happens, especially with people I'm playing with, although it might be a symptom of the people I play games with and how we operate, is someone's always going for losing 0 to 3, for winning only 0 to 3 tricks. No matter what happens in my games, no one's going for balance. No one's going for, hey, I'm going to try to win a bunch of tricks and we'll see how it goes. Everyone's always trying to really get everything in the game. And that really changes how you play through it. And again, that may not be the way it's intended to be played, but ultimately the appeal of getting 6 points feels like you have so much control there that players are constantly trying to go for that. And it results in a bit of a state where one player is intentionally losing every hand, forcing control away from the other player, and granted, there may be a point where the other player can break free of that control and take the reins and force the other player to win just enough tricks that they get the 6 points. That can happen, but it ends up feeding into a dynamic of players feeling a little less control over the overarching game state than they would ideally like. Again, at least for me and the plays I've had of this, that kind of symptom is present where it just feels a little bit more like, sure, I have some abilities to control things, but ultimately, oh, you forced me to win, you forced me to win, you forced me to win, you forced me to win. The feeling of fun is less present over the overarching puzzle, even when the player who's being forced to win does eventually manage to break free and force some wins to the other player, thus balancing it and even walking away with 6 points. It means the entire back and forth just felt like you were less in control. Congratulations, you won the match, you got 6 points, but you also spent 2/3 of the game just feeling completely out of control because forcing a loss in Fox and the Forest is easier than forcing a win. The nature of being able to break suit whenever you want, it is easier to force a loss, and that just takes some of the satisfaction of the control away from the puzzle, at least for me. Versus in Jekyll and Hyde, I find that balance is so much more nuanced. I have found that this is a game that, if anything, I have found that Jekyll has more control than Hyde in this game. It's one of the reasons I recommend playing back and forth, because I think if you're playing as Hyde, you might actually find yourself losing across the 3 rounds. You got close to the finish line, but not quite to the point where you fully transformed and took on that persona and personality. And so for me, the sense of balance really lies more with Jekyll. Jekyll's trying to control the flow, trying to ensure, oh, you want a trick? Well, I want to win a trick. And I found that back and forth, especially combined with the way the potion cards operate, really gives a lot more sense of agency to both sides in terms of how they play. When you lose a hand, you feel like, you played well. And when you win a hand, you feel like, you played well. That feeling is present whether or not you lose the game. Versus for me, Fox and the Forest is the exact opposite feeling. Regardless of whether I win the game, I still feel a less of a sense of agency over the entire puzzle than I ideally want. And so for me, this is just not a satisfying experience. But again, keep in mind, your own tastes may differ. The nature of trick-taking games, I think, very much does come down to how much you can see your way out of the combinations of cards that are being thrown your way and how to break free from an opponent who has some sense of control, but which you have agency as well. And for me, I just have that more with Jekyll and Hyde. That's kind of where I am on these two. Hopefully I gave you a bit of a sense of why I like one over the other, what they do for me. I'll also say separately, not to bash Fox and the Forest, I prefer the art of Jekyll and Hyde. I think the art looks great here, but I just love Vincent's trait. I think his art really stands out, and I think it looks great over here. I think the theme is more clever and more interesting, and I think the way it implements the theme really feels like it feels like they did a good job implementing theme and mechanics, versus Fox and the Forest just feels like an arbitrary set of theme around the mechanics for me. So for me, rating-wise, Fox and the Forest, it's not a bad game. I've had fun playing it, but to me it's a 3 out of 5. It is fine, it's okay, I'll play it, but it's not one I feel compelled to continue playing. Versus Jekyll and Hyde for me is a 4 out of 5. I really enjoy this 2-player back-and-forth trick-taking game. I think the theme is delightful. I love that metal miniature. It gets extra points for that. Not actually extra points, but it gets bonus points in my head for that one. But the overall combination of theme and mechanics and gameplay really led to a strong sense of balance and control. Regardless of whether I won or lost the game, I had so much satisfaction playing this. I had more satisfaction losing in Jekyll and Hyde versus winning in Fox and the Forest. That's these games to me. If you're looking for a variety of other trick-taking games, there are a bunch of great trick-taking games out there. If you want a fully cooperative group experience, there's The Crew. If you want one of my favorite competitive 3 to 4 player experiences, there's Ghost of Christmas. I think it does play 2 players, but I'm not sure. I think it actually might just be 3 or 4. But Ghost of Christmas is phenomenal. If you want something that's very innovative, there's Cat in the Box. There are so many great trick-taking games out there. For me, these are just 2-player trick-taking games and my thoughts on them. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.